Hey everybody, welcome to the Fresh Start Podcast. This is Marcia.
And this is Stacy. We're so glad to have you.
It's Thanksgiving week and Stacy's got her Christmas tree up in the background.
I do. It's been up for 2 weeks.
Good. You know, more and more people are decorating for Christmas early, and I used to be one of those that was like, nope, no, 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 no,
Hmm.
no. We are not doing that. But yeah, I'm kind of digging it. I mean, I like the Christmas lights and they're up for only, 2 or 3
Yeah.
weeks. So
Unless you live in my house and then they're up past Valentine's Day.
taking them down is a whole another thing. And I think it was about this time last year you and I had an argument about cornbread dressing.
Was it cornbread dressing? Was it cranberry relish? It could have been both.
Well, we were talking about I make like a sweet cornbread with Jiffy cornbread, and I think you
Oh,
were like, "Oh,
yeah.
heck no."
No, savory. It's like
Yeah.
sage all the way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a
Yes.
little bit of sage in my mom's Jiffy cornbread dressing, but it's, and then there's stuffing versus dressing. Everyone has their.
Everyone has their things.
Yeah, yeah, and cranberry relish. I'm not sure. Uh, I'm guessing you don't mean like pulling it out of a can where it's shaped like a can and sitting it on the
I
table.
really like the can-shaped relish. I'm
Okay.
one of those.
Whole
But I
berry,
also like, no, no, just
just the jelly.
the
Okay.
gelatinous
Okay.
cylinder. Yes. And I also like the relish. My mom made relish.
Oh.
So we would have both on the table. And her relish, the with the sugar and lemon zest and or orange, I think it
Mm.
was. That was delicious. It was almost like a dessert to me.
Oh.
I
That
would
does.
definitely have both. What about you? What do you prefer?
Um, I like it. I like all of it, but my family they are not cranberry people. So I've
Mm,
stopped even putting it out on the table because it just sits there, you know.
wow.
So yeah, it's not their thing. None of them.
I'll eat extra for you.
And two of my kids are vegan. So I went to the store today to make sure they had some vegan things to eat. But, it's just about getting together and having
Uh-huh.
some family time. And we're having it early. We're having ours tomorrow because my son is playing the halftime show at the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving
That
Day football
is
game. So
awesome.
if y'all are listening, turn in and watch Post Malone for the Dallas Cowboys halftime show. And if you see a dark-headed, with a little bit of gray in it, guitar player, that's my boy. He's gonna kill me for saying that. Oh, but anyway, we hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, and I'm glad that the shutdown is over. So it looks like the flights are all kind of back to normal. They've got that covered, and everyone can go see their families, and so
Yeah.
that's really good news.
Yeah, it is. And I guess we won't really talk about politics today because we want to keep it
Yeah.
nice and light.
Yes,
But
we're
yes,
not.
it's good. It's good that the government is back open.
Yes, it is. It's a good thing. So our guest today is a friend of yours, and
Yes.
I've been hearing about her for a long time, and I just really loved the conversation that we
Yeah.
had with Barb. Um,
Yeah. As much as I'm into Enneagram, she's into internal family systems.
right.
And yeah.
I wanted to just kind of talk about that a minute too before we introduce her because we kind of launch into IFS is what it's called, and I had never
Mhm.
heard of it until you started talking about it. Marie, our friend, started talking about it.
Mhm.
But IFS is short for Internal Family Systems.
Mhm.
And do you have like a little overview that you
I
could?
do. I
Okay.
do. She calls it a gentle and respectful approach to understanding our inner world.
Okay.
We catch ourselves saying, part of me wants this or part of me wants that. So
Hmm.
it's about parts. And it was developed by Dr. Richard Schwartz. And it's an evidence-based therapeutic model that therapists and some coaches, and she's level 3 certified as a coach,
Okay.
they use that to support inner healing. IFS recognizes that we each have many different parts, and each part has its own feelings, beliefs, and protective strategies. And some parts even carry wounds from the past, and other parts really are trying to protect us and keep us safe. So, all of these parts are working within us, and at the center of all of it is our self with a capital S, and that's our steady, compassionate core. And so the work that she does is helping people to see that self and all of the parts, how to navigate that internal conversation and gain greater clarity and compassion and confidence and
Mm-hmm.
how we see ourselves and also how we navigate relationships with other people.
Yeah. What kind of threw me off at first was like, because it's called internal family systems, I thought, oh, does that mean like there's an inner child and there's a mom and there's a dad? But that's not really what it
Right.
is. But I looked up, there was a little chart and it talks about, you were talking about that big self, the core self that's in the middle. But
Mm-hmm.
then we have these different personalities. We have the managers, which
Mm-hmm.
their main job is to run our daily life, and it's the most acceptable part because it's similar to the core self. And then we have the firefighters. Their main job, they're first responders. They're called into service when anything hits too close to home. And they create an illusion of stability by numbing and distancing from the exile's pain with distractions. And then you have the exile. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the person that's the part of us that hides rejected, wounded, and traumatized parts. And so all of these, I guess, can take over, if you're
Yeah.
unbalanced. You can just lean into your firefighter all the time or overmanage or really just lay into your exile part,
Mm-hmm.
and your core self gets kind of lost in the middle. That's kind of what I'm understanding. Does that seem
Yeah.
right to you?
Yeah. And it's just really fascinating because I
Mhm.
think that the other thing that I've certainly seen her navigate as she's coached people in our community is you think about parts being certain ages too, where certain
Mm.
events happen in our lives.
Mhm.
And I my takeaway has been as I've gotten to know this just a little bit more through Barb, just to catch myself, because I think we say it all the time about how we feel conflicted inside.
Mm.
And she's really good because she and I hang out together and she'll say, "Oh, I'm so curious about that part that just came to the surface. Tell me more about that." I'm like, stop coaching me. We're just at dinner.
I don't want
No,
to
it's
be
really cool.
analyzed.
I really think it's helpful to have a conversation about all of the inner workings that we have without feeling fear about it. I think it's just
Yeah.
a really kind of objective and creative way to navigate our inner world.
Yeah, because none of those parts are bad. We all
Right.
need to have the firefighter parts, be able to put out the fires, and we all need to have the manager parts, and then the exile parts are just part of life. That's just
Hmm.
they're gonna be there. So, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know you guys will too. Do you want to do a little intro for Dr. Barbara
Yeah.
Alquist?
Yeah. Dr.
Alquists?
Barbara Ahlquist.
Yeah,
Absolutely. She's a
Alquists.
wonderful human being who lives here locally with me, which is great. It's good to have her nearby. But she does a lot of coaching in spaces. She's trauma informed. So she does a
Mhm.
lot of coaching in spaces where people are coming out of difficult relationships or marriages. And
Mhm.
she is one of those few coaches that is level 3 certified in IFS. So they do not offer that to coaches anymore.
Mhm.
So she is one of the few, and you'll find her right on Richard Schwartz's website
Oh,
too. So you can
cool.
contact her through there. She does coaching, and I highly recommend her. If you're at all interested in IFS, just reach out to Barb and we'll put her contact info in the show notes.
Yeah, they'll be in the show notes. And you can find her on Instagram too. That's in the show notes too. So, all right. Well, um, I guess we're going to launch into this a conversation with Dr. Barbara Alquist. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's it.
And so y'all stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, Barb, welcome to the Fresh Start podcast.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
For all of you listeners out there, Barb and I have known each other for several years and have done some work together in an advocacy space for women who are survivors of destructive relationships. And so we met that way and have both become certified coaches and gotten involved in other aspects of coaching. And I've been excited to get her on with us to explain a little bit about her area of expertise. And before we get all into that, Barb, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to the audience and let us know a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, first off, I'm Stacy's friend. So I'm very happy about that. She is a neighbor and a friend. So I was happy when she moved to town. Um, I'm a woman, I'm a mom, I'm a nana of a few months. So that's very exciting. I'm a friend, I'm a coach, I'm an advocate, I'm a learner, and the list just goes on and on. As we're talking about fresh starts, we all have many fresh starts in our lives, right? Over and over again. And one of my most momentous fresh starts came 10 years ago when I got a divorce. So it was 10 years ago this month since we are taping in October. I don't know when this is going to drop. And which I think is very synchronistic because this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And Stacy, we are advocates for women that have walked that road. And as we are victims of it ourselves, this is a really important month for us. And as I was a victim of domestic violence, though many in some communities would not agree with that. So, women in certain communities where the male is viewed kind of as a person that is able to take leadership and he's a kind person inside, and he's viewed that outside of the home and even by the kiddos. It's hard to see coercive control, emotional abuse, and psychological aggression. And so often we only think of domestic violence as physical contact violence, but a lot of other things come into play there. In fact, I was just in a discussion yesterday with a lead advocate for women, and we were discussing how there's such a fuzzy line for many when it comes to coercive control and leadership in the home, especially in high control religious communities. Is it coercive control or is it leadership? So I'm glad to be here during this month to talk about my fresh start and so many of the fresh starts, the women that Stacy, you and I have both worked with. I have a PhD in psychology and I'm practicing as a professional life coach, as Stacy said, and I'm a certified level 3 internal family systems practitioner. I work with women from all walks who are wanting to make an inner fresh start in many ways. And that's what I do in my individual coaching practice. As women, we have been domesticated into who we're supposed to be, how we are to think, how we're to feel, how we're to act for centuries, even. And most of the women coming to me are saying, we're ready to be our authentic selves and lived not bogged down with these cultural ideologies anymore. Um, the women that come to me are executives, they're business owners, they're professionals, they're stay-at-home moms, they're retirees. They are people seeking to live a balanced, harmonious life. My individual work also consists of working with women walking through divorce, high conflict divorce, custody, or trying to decide should they stay in their marriage or should they leave their marriage. And as a consultant and an IFS trainer, I also work with um, many mental health practitioners and mental health practices. I can often be fine consulting owners as they seek to align their clinical organization with their core values and or training their clinicians in IFS. So that's kind of what I do with my
Just a
Wow.
little bit.
Well,
yeah.
first of all, I'm so glad to finally meet you. I've heard about you for a long time from Stacy, and I heard a little bit about your work, but listening to what you just talked about, man, I just want to start out by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So many women need this kind of work and hand holding because as someone who also was in a domestic violence relationship for a long time, and a lot of it was because of high control religion. I know how hard it is for women out there that are in that situation to not only name what is going on accurately, to have the strength to walk away from it. I mean, I had so many people say, "Why did you stay so long? Oh my gosh." And, then you feel like embarrassed. You're like, "Why did I stay so long?" But there are real reasons why women stay so long. And it takes community. It takes people like you and Stacy, coaches, and women that have walked through it to say, "Hey, I got you. Let's walk through this together." And so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You used an interesting word, domesticated, which I like.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, one of the ways that we can look at fresh start, and we've talked about this before, it's um I hear women all the time say, I didn't think it was abuse, or I didn't think it was an issue until one day it just struck me. One day suddenly I had that awareness. So what are some of the, I guess, some of the stories that you hear, the perspective that you have, having worked with so many different organizations and women, about how that takes place in us?
Well, I think it takes place in so many areas, right? Culturally, certainly in some really high control religious systems. And it takes place from simple ways, this domestication of how we're supposed to feel, how we're supposed to act, how we are supposed to think. And it comes in many ways. Like, for instance, with a lot of women, here's one way I was just talking about with one of my clients yesterday. This idea that um, we put others first. We always should put others first, right? This idea that as women, how many of us women have spent hundreds of dollars on kids' cleats and sports games and bats and, all the things the kids need, right? But we are walking around with shoes from the dollar store or different places. And then we wonder why years later we have hip issues and knee issues and back issues. But we're taught we need to put all of these other people first. We need to put them first in our thinking, in our acting, in so many ways. Um and
That's
that's what we do.
that's our
And
highest calling, right, Barbie? And that's what they say in high control religions for a woman to put themselves last is our highest calling. I
Yeah.
mean, oh my
I
goodness.
was just talking to Maggie last night about we've had a couple of instances recently where we've revisited some of our old church programming. We were talking about the private school she was in for so many years. And one of the things that I had to do as a parent was volunteer a certain number of hours. And that was a requirement. And I could, have she could be kicked out of the program if I didn't put in the right number of volunteer hours. Well, I was a working mom. And the ways that they said I could volunteer all included being at the school. And I just couldn't do that. And it was a lot of hours. So it was beyond my capacity. Like I could throw in a field trip here and there or a classroom visit, but the number of hours were just too extensive. So I went in and said, hey, what other options do we have? Like, can I get some crafts to cut out at home? Can I, help the teacher out with grading? What can I do? And it was this huge thing to be approved for me, right? So
Right,
like this,
because you were
Hmm.
supposed to be a
I
stay-at-home
was supposed to
mom.
be a stay-at-home
Wow.
mom.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
supposed to be a stay-at-home soccer mom,
yeah.
and that's how you were to be a good parent.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. So not only, are there rules to follow, but if you don't stay in this case in kindergarten, color in the lines, right? If you don't do that, then, you're subject to being pushed out.
Right, and pushed out for your kids' sake, right?
It's
And if you want
bizarre.
something for your kids, you
Wow.
have to stay within the confines and within the box.
Yeah. 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 So there's lots of ways that we're domesticated over the years and, encouraged to stay in certain roles. And I hear it from women all the time in the corporate space, how we show up and how we use our voices. It continues sometimes that trend of being seen and not heard, as an
Yes.
example.
And we self-silence, we make ourselves small. And that's what we were taught to do it. Our mothers were taught to do it. Our grandmothers were taught to do it. And one thing I do love now is we are teaching our daughters to not do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we are teaching our daughters to be different and to be more authentic, which I totally love that. Um, but yeah, we were taught to be the good mother, to be the good Christian mother. We had to do these things.
Mm.
And we were domesticated. I too love that word because I was like, the minute I ever heard that word, I was like, oh, yes, that is
Yeah.
exactly right.
Now, bring in a little bit of IFS for us because part of your work is helping women to recover themselves. How do we get back to who we are and get more aligned with, who we are versus the box we've been placed in? So, how would you introduce listeners to that concept?
Well, I think I want to first say that part of this domestication is that we don't understand that we matter and that we're important. And part of IFS, and really the whole thing about IFS, is coming to a place of self. Because if you talk to many women as they go through life, they say, I was lost. I lost myself. I lost who I was. If
Mm.
I don't know what happened to me.
Mm.
And all of my research through graduate school was on bringing these women who are saying, I'm lost. I lost myself. And this idea of IFS together, because IFS says we have a self, and let's find who your authentic self is. Um, and so that we can live from this grounded place rather than Many of us live from a place of reactivity.
Mm.
And IFS stands for Internal Family Systems. And real quickly, I want to just say it is a really gentle, and I want to emphasize that gentle way of understanding our inner world. It's based on the idea that we're made up of different parts. And what I mean by that, I mean, for instance, when the alarm goes off in the morning and it's a Saturday, a part of us might want to turn the alarm off and roll over and go back to sleep because it's Saturday and I want to sleep in. But another part of us says, I need to pay the bills. I need to mow the lawn. I need to do that. So I need to get up. So there's these, so it's just our thoughts and our feelings is how we're saying that. Um, and each of our parts has its own feelings, beliefs, protective strategies. And some of our parts carry wounds and pains from the past, while other parts are working hard to make sure we stay safe and we stay functioning. In IFS, the parts that are working to keep us safe and functioning, we call them protector parts. And the parts that carry the wounds and the pain, we call those the exile parts.
Mm.
And we say at the center of all of this is our self. It's our core self. And it's our innate, grounded, compassionate core. And from this place of this compassionate core, we can turn towards our parts with curiosity, with care, and we can build relationships with them rather than trying to fix or silence them. Often, if a part of us, say we have a part of us that when we get agitated, we yell or scream. So often we want to just be like, I'm just going to ignore that part. I'm just going to tell it to go away. I'm just going to act like I don't even have it or just try to be like, nope. But IFS says, let's build a relationship with that part and let's try to find out and go towards that part with curiosity.
Mm.
Kind of like what we would do with a kiddo, right? If or an animal, right? If we don't have kids, like if we have a kid that is upset, if we move towards them with relationship, then we can build connection.
Mm.
And that's what we're trying to do inside. Um, and then we begin to build this trust and this leadership from self so that we're living with clarity and freedom. Um, and I can go into an example of how that plays out.
Yeah, I think you have a fun example,
Yeah,
especially
I
for this
do.
time of
There's
the year.
lots of fun examples, but since it's October and I was thinking about the holidays are coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us are going to be sitting there at a holiday dinner. First, we're going to be preparing for holiday dinner, and we're going to be preparing to sit down with grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, different people. So we're going to have, if we come from a lens of IFS, these manager parts, right? They're going to be saying, okay, how do I make sure that my kids react right? How do I make sure my sister doesn't get my mother upset? How do I make sure that my kid doesn't say this to grandma? How do I make sure my kid puts their phone down? How do I say to my dad, don't say this to Uncle so and so? Like, and so we have these manager parts that are always working. And from an IFS lens, the reason these managers are working is because they're trying to make sure these younger, vulnerable parts of us don't get activated. Because those parts that are trying to keep our mothers from getting upset are remembering and saying, oh no, if mom gets upset, she's going to yell. She's going to make me feel shame. She's going to make me feel like I don't belong, make me feel like a bad mother. So we have our manager parts that are trying to make sure that doesn't happen. So before and right when we're sitting down, we might decide, okay, who sits near who? We might even have had conversations beforehand with kids and siblings, right? And then we get there and something happens, right? Our sibling begins to talk about politics, which gets Uncle John upset or our mother upset, or our kid.
This is sounding way too realistic.
I know. Were you watching my last Thanksgiving dinner?
Right? Or the kid starts scrolling, which gets grandma upset, or the kid won't even come to the table, or the kid won't even answer a question, or just like, or the younger kid knocks the glass over, right? And so something happens in what's happening inside is those younger tender parts are getting triggered. Oh no, shame, I'm not enough, I'm going to lose connection. So these other parts come in, which in IFS we call firefighters. They're like, I'm going to fix this situation. So we yell at our kids, put that phone down, or we yell at our sibling, why did you bring that up? I said not to bring it up. You need to be quiet. Or whatever way we handle the situation. And we try to bring control back to get everybody settled down. And sometimes your firefighter comes up, and then someone else's firefighter comes up, and then it's really a storm at the table, right? But eventually it calms down, and everybody goes on to have dessert. And then later that night, you're home, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad mother. Why did I yell at my kid? Why did I yell at my kid in front of my parents? I'm doing exactly what my parents did to me,
Mm.
right? Or why did I sit there and not say anything, right? And then we start being this inner bully to ourselves. And this whole cycle starts again and again.
Mm.
And so with IFS, we work with all the parts showed up during what's going on. And we work to bring groundedness and healing and unblending and unburdening and healing so that we are able to show up not reacting, but with acting. And we can show up with compassion and connection and confidence and courage and calm. Um, and that's what IFS does. And I have seen it in my life and over and over and over again in my clients' lives that they are saying, I am able to act. I am able when my young adult kid just came at me with all this force and aggression. I was able to pause and take a moment and show up the way I wanted to show up.
Mm.
I was able to do the work I needed to do. So when I was going to show up an event that could be really triggering, I showed up as my authentic self and I was happy. And I was every bit of who I wanted to be. And that's what I've seen IFS do over and over and over again. And that's the work I do with my clients.
Sign me up. Because my firefighter is tired.
Right? We have a lot of firefighters, right? We have a lot of different, whether it's yelling or scrolling or numbing or, one favorite one, if there's a lot of Christian women from the 90s, was reading all those Christian romance books, right? Over and over again.
I didn't get into that, thankfully.
But a lot of women did. Think of how much money was spent
Wow.
on those libraries at the churches, right? And so much, so many different firefighters show up for many of us
Mm,
in many different ways.
yeah, no
Yes,
kidding.
it's as people make transitions in their lives, whether they're going through a life transition, a faith transition, whatever it is, those parts that have always been there, maybe do they show up in new ways, perhaps in different situations? So this is an opportunity to just be more equipped with tools that then as you move through life, think you start to see more patterns and ways of and opportunities to use the tools that you teach.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. And what I've seen, like often women will come to me because it's a relationship issue, but then they're like, oh, now I'm starting to work with this in my workplace. Or they'll come to me because of workplace issues. And then we start to work with their parts that are showing up at work. And then they're able to say, oh, I'm putting this to work in my relationship. So it's as you begin to work with all of your parts, you begin to see that it starts really mattering. One of the 8 C's, there's 8 C's that we say we have when we're going from self and self leadership, and one of them is connection. So the more inner connection we have, the more outer connection we have, work, personal relationships, family relationships,
Mm,
all sorts of places.
wow. I, I I can't imagine this not being so helpful to anyone, whether they've come out of you know, a bad relationship or struggling. I mean, it just sounds like something that anyone, it would be helpful for anyone to get in touch with all of these parts of themselves because I know that for a lot of times, especially after my divorce and I was trying to figure out who I was, and I was trying to make it really linear. Like, who am I? Am I this? Am I this? Am I this? And when I'm listening to you talk about, it's like, I'm all the, I'm a bunch of different things. Like, I'm not just this. I'm not just, and we talk about that with the Enneagram, it's not that you are like I'm a 9. So it's not that I'm just a 9, it's like actually trying to figure out how to be even bigger than just the 9, that little box. And that's what I've really enjoyed for me in my personal journey recently is being able to embrace that I can be more than just one thing. For instance, I had someone post on my Facebook. I posted something a couple days ago about I don't know, it was something about Trump probably. And this guy said, "Stop it, Marcia. Stop promoting hate." He said, "I know your heart. You are a sweet woman and you need to stop this." And another friend came on and said, "She doesn't follow Warren Jeffs. She's not she doesn't have to keep sweet and pray. She can have a brain and she can say her opinion and she can still be sweet. She can be both at the same time." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, Courtney." But when he first said it, I immediately felt, "Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be sweet. Like I'm known for being sweet. So I'm only supposed to be sweet, but I can be more than just sweet. I can be sweet and, right? You can be more than that."
Right. And, first off, culturally, we are supposed to be sweet, right? Sweet and all of those things. But the 8 C's are confident, courageous,
Mm,
and compassionate,
mm,
and clarity. So it's all of those things combined. When you are acting from self leadership, it is not just, oh, compassion. It's compassion and clarity and confidence and courage. It is all
all of those
of
things.
those things.
Mm, love it.
And now a part might say there's a different, like act bravado. Now, bravado is very different than
Courage.
confidence,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that's how you know a part that is acting like bravado. Well, I know the answers to all this, da da da. That isn't really confidence. Confidence is just really securely knowing you're making the right decision and you're going forward in a really authentic way, right? And so there's a difference between knowing you're walking in self and you do have different parts that show up. You can have a part that is showing up and stating exactly what you want to state and be. And you can also have a part that is really a caregiver and kind,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Questioning, even. You can have a questioning
Yeah.
part
All
Yeah.
kinds of
while you have a
parts.
confident part. Yeah.
I love
Hanging
that.
out with Barb is fun because
I
she's like, what part of that do you think what part are you going to
are you
say?
constantly feeling dissected, Stacey?
The difference, though, is I will try to entertain her parts questions, but she just doesn't want to have anything to do with my Enneagram questions.
No,
Oh,
I will
that's so funny.
entertain your Enneagram questions. We will work with both of them.
That's a joke. Yeah, we're trying to find
Oh,
ways to blend
blend the two. That's
those
so
two.
cool. You know
Now,
what? Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Marcia.
Well, I was just going to say, just going back to something you said, that the I love that you're pointing out the difference between bravado and confidence because you do see a lot of people, I think, especially online, putting out this bravado and thinking that they're being confident in what they're saying. But yeah, true confidence, I don't, there's no way to have that unless you do the inner work first, right? You
Right.
got to do that inner work and figure out who your authentic self is. And then that leads to real confidence. That's what I hear you say. Is that right?
Yeah. And, our authentic self is here and it's just going to come out as we unblend from these parts,
Mm,
as we do this inner work and we unblend and we heal these parts, being able to walk in this authentic self. So we're able to walk with clarity and confidence and courage and compassion.
mm,
I wanted to ask a question about practices or daily rituals, and I know that you have one. Your shirt reminds me. If you're looking at YouTube, then you can see that Barb is wearing a just vibrant shirt today. So that's reminding me of a practice that you have that I think is really interesting, and would love for you to share it if you'd like.
Well, I don't know if we're thinking about the same thing or not.
The journaling.
Yes, yes. Journaling is really important. And having daily practices, daily rituals, and I actually just wrote about this in my newsletter maybe a couple of months ago about how important that has been for me, as well as for so many others I know. A time when you can sit, you can reflect, you can allow your parts to journal, you can allow them to pick whatever color they want to journal with, and allow them to speak and get out and journal and write or draw what is going on. And it's a way to begin to notice all of these different parts. I think I wrote about it through the lens of having a sacred space and having a space where you matter and you can go and you can say, I'm going to take some time with me to breathe, to ground, to reflect, to pause, to take in what I need to take in for the day or at the end of the day or whenever that time is. And it can include many different things for many different people. But having a time, a practice, a ritual. For me, it happens on my porch. And I love my porch. I listen to my birds and the trees and the animals and my plants. And that's my time. And I do it in the mornings.
I love that. I have my morning time too out in my little sunroom, and I've just started journaling. I'll have to say I've been kind of resistant to that. I'm like, what's that going to do? Write down what I think. Man, you got to just do it. And when you start doing it, and I was doing it for a while last year, and then I kind of stopped. But then about a month ago, I went back and I started reading what I had journaled. And all of a sudden, it's like looking back on where I was and where I am now was very eye-opening for me. And I was very grateful for those days that I journaled where I was and what I was feeling and where I was going. And I can see my journey in what I wrote. And for me, that was like, all right, well, maybe if I don't feel like journaling today and I don't want to write and I don't think it's helping today, I'm going to do it anyway because my future me is going to come back and read this and I think it's going to be helped from it. And so yeah, but I love the idea of picking out different colors to journal in too. I like that idea.
Yeah. And research shows that journaling, even if you don't go back to it,
Mm-hmm.
it is helping. It does help your well being, it helps you become a healthier person. And there's research that says journaling, actually writing with your hand, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is helpful. Um, yeah, I use all kinds of colors and I morphed from just I used to journal and it was just, this black and white thing, and now I use all kinds of colors and drawing and do all sorts of things with
I
it.
may have to integrate that into my journaling too. I like the idea of picking out a color that I feel that day and writing in it. Like if I feel red, I'm going to write in red, or if I feel green, or if I feel blue.
Yeah.
Maybe that
Yep.
might be something to help too. So I love that. I love that. It's one good way to start trying to figure out your authentic self.
Yeah, and you begin to notice what parts are showing up
Mm-hmm.
as you begin to notice, oh, as I'm journaling, this part is showing up. It likes to do this color or it doesn't like a color. It wants to just do it's a really analyzer part. And it's like, just give me the black pen and I'm gonna analyze everything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm.
Well, Stacy, I think it's time to. We this has been a great conversation, but I think it's time for your Enneagram prompts.
Yeah. And I want to say that as much as I love the Enneagram as a way of internal processing, Barb loves IFS. And so, because she and I love each other, we, we have great conversations and are kind of committed to figuring out ways that we can leverage both of these in a unique way to, bring a retreat or a program to life. So that's cooking on the back burner for us through our busy lives. But keep on the lookout because one day I think we'll nail it.
I want to go to it. I want to be there at that retreat. So if y'all do it, sign me
It'll
up.
be good. It'll be really good. So, listeners, as with each of our episodes, I have some prompts based on the Enneagram. And the first one is our thinking prompt. That's with the head center, and that's productively thinking or processing. And IQ9 encourages us to be curious and observant. So much like we just heard from Barb, how do we become more observant, curious about our own thoughts? And when we feel stuck in some way of self-doubt or overanalyzing information, what can we do to become more productive? What other center might we reach into to activate activity or something that takes us out of that thought spiral? So feeling by becoming more aware of our emotions, that is key to our integration or balance. And we feel a lot of emotions. The question is, do we know the names of them? Because just like meeting people in real life, once we know someone's name, we're able to communicate more effectively and build better relationships. So, what are we doing to become more aware of the emotions that we're feeling? And how can we do that with self-compassion and empathy? Those are skills that we want to develop because that is what takes us from self-awareness into being able to build relationships with other people. So, being more curious about our feelings. And finally, doing. So sometimes if it's hard to know what to do next, it may be because we're overusing the thinking center or the emotional center. So sometimes just asking ourselves, what's the next right thing to do? What do I want to do to put this into action? What do I want to do next? So being able to catch ourselves in those moments when we do feel kind of stuck in some way and we can do something, whether that's getting up and taking some deep breaths or stretching or doing the dishes. You won't catch me necessarily doing that, but maybe maybe some Tai Chi, right?
Yeah.
Marsha. So those are our 3 prompts today: to be observant and curious in all of the centers of intelligence: action, feeling, and thinking.
Very good,
Stacey,
Stacey.
I love that because with parts, that's what we want to do. We want to be curious and observant and begin to notice our parts and notice how our parts are showing up. Notice the energy that we're feeling in our body as they are showing up, which if we're always in our headspace, we sometimes can't feel somatically. And that's hard for a lot of women to begin to say, how am I feeling the energy in my body? And what does this feel like? Right. And so I love that we're thinking about and encouraging how do we want to do this and begin to notice, which wraps right into journaling.
Yeah,
Right?
it does.
Journal as you notice, sit down, pick a color, and journal all of those answers.
I love that. I keep going back to what you said earlier too about approaching like a child and when I was raising my kids and they would maybe react in a way that was inappropriate or that was overreacting or didn't make any sense. I would always sit down and go, honey, why are we so upset right now? Why are you crying? Why did you just yell at me for no reason? I do something? Let's talk about this and try to help them work through their own little process. And I love what you said. Like we should ask ourselves, okay, rather than sitting in shame or feeling like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, like ask ourselves some questions. And that has been helping my journaling recently. I start by asking myself some questions and then answering rather than just like, because I always had a hard time starting my journaling. Like, what am I going to say? What do I do? But those questions like, why am I feeling so anxious today? Why am I feeling so mad today? And then try to like write that out. And that has been helping me. And so I loved that you talked about that. If we'll do that for our children and say, honey, why are you upset? Maybe we need to sit down and I mean, even was it in one of the Psalms, why, oh soul, why are you so downcast? Let's talk about it. What is it? So
And you can even take it what part of me is feeling anxious today?
oh yeah.
What part is feeling anxious? Because maybe a part is feeling anxious and a part is feeling excited,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And maybe another part is feeling fearful. So you can sit with all the different parts that are showing up and let each one of them journal. the part that's feeling anxious, the part that's feeling excited,
Mm.
and the part that's feeling fearful.
Oh, I love
And
that.
let them each pick a different color.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. Oh my gosh.
I'm
Thanks so
so
much.
glad to have you on the podcast. It's wonderful.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
thank you.
You're just a delight and a breath of fresh air. And I'm just so glad to get to know you. And I hope to meet you in person at that retreat you and Stacy are going to plan.
It will happen one
Okay.
of these days, and I am so thankful to be here with you guys. Thank you for having me on. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Barb.
So we'll put all of the info for how to reach Barb and find Barb's work out in our show notes and invite you to connect if you'd like to learn more about her practice and utilization of IFS.
Yep, we will. Y'all connect with her and, life coaches are needed these days. Life is hard.
There's a lot of life going on out there.
There is a lot of
Lots
life.
it.
So thanks again, Barb and Stacy. It's good to see you. And you guys, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thanks for listening. If you guys can like, share, and review or whatever, rate, whatever you do on those things, we would really appreciate that. And yeah, help us grow. We would appreciate it so much. And until next time, thanks for listening to the Fresh Start Podcast. Bye, y'all. This episode has been brought to you by God and My Girlfriends Ministries. If you're looking for a faith-based community where everyone is accepted, all beliefs are welcome, and no judgment, check out godandmygirlfriendsministries.org, where you can find more information about our book clubs, both online and in person, upcoming retreats, and all the events in your area. You can also find out about one of our favorite things that we do, our Single Moms Christmas Blessing Ministry. So go check out godandmygirlfriendsministries.org. We would love to have you a part of our community.